Setting goals as a couple is so important, but when was the last time you actually sat down with your partner and set goals that would benefit not just you as an individual, but the marriage as a whole? That's what we're talking about today. Hey, Strength of Seduction family, this is Daniel, and if you're listening to this episode, well, there's a good chance that you're already a Strength of Seduction customer. The reality is most people purchased our Strength of Seduction workouts back during the pandemic because they were really fun to do in the house and they looked exciting, and you wanted to build intimacy with your partner. You wanted to build connection with your partner. But over the past few years, we've realized that just doing the workouts is really fun, it's engaging, and it's interesting, but it's not really what we were trying to get at with our programming. What we intended to do is to create something that would help you to transform your life and your marriage. And it's taken us a few years to figure out what exactly that means. And we didn't do it alone. We did it by talking to you. Over the past few years, we've talked to over 20,000 couples, Black couples in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, who've gone through it all, who've seen the ups and downs of life, who've gone through all the struggles, who've actually achieved happiness. And what we learned was really shocking. We learned that there are 4 key elements that all relationships must have strong. They must have on lock in order to make that relationship thrive. And we took those 4 elements and we designed a program around those elements to help support Black couples in a way that's, well, we've just never seen done before. And what we came up with was called Love and Legacy. And it's the first and only program in the world created from speaking privately with thousands of couples just like us about the biggest challenges in our life and relationship. And it's actually a proven system designed to help Black couples upgrade our life and our marriage. Now, this is not open to the public yet. If you're listening to this, like I said, you're most likely already a member of our community. And that's why we'd like to tell you about it first. You can apply and you can learn more at strengthofseduction.com/legacy. This is a private page. And I look forward to hearing from you because the reality is there isn't a lot of talk about what makes our marriages work, what makes our marriages thrive. What I've seen when I'm doing my research is that there's still a big stereotype that our marriages don't last, they don't work, that they're non-existent. And that's certainly not the case. In the Love and Legacy community, we have members who've been married for 20, 30, 40 years, and they're still going strong. And yet they're still interested in learning more and digging deeper and showing up better as partners and individuals. So if that's you, go ahead and check us out, strengthofseduction.com/legacy to learn more about this new program that we're launching. And enjoy today's episode. This is the Strength of Seduction podcast, the #1 resource for Black couples who want to build intimacy, love, and connection in their relationship. I'm your host, Daniel DiPiazza. My friends, welcome back to the Strength of Seduction podcast, the #1 resource for Black couples who want to build love, intimacy, and connection in their marriage. I'm your host, Daniel DiPiazza. If you're new here and you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for updates. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform like Apple or Spotify, make sure to subscribe and to leave a review. Every review counts. Guys, today we have an incredible episode for you today, all about how to set goals as a couple, which is something that really isn't talked about enough and needs to be talked about. And in fact, this is a snippet from one of the coaching sessions inside of our program called Love and Legacy. And today, you're going to hear the voices of our phenomenal coaches, Roosevelt and Renita Quick, who've been married for almost 40 years now and who share gems with our couples every single week to help them, to guide them, to support them. This is just a small snippet of one of our coaching sessions. And partially the reason why it's a snippet is because these are very interactive sessions where the couples get to talk to our coaches and talk to each other to work through their challenges, to work through their issues. But we want to keep the privacy and the sacredness of that space clean and pure. So we don't have any of the couples actually on here. We just have the lesson that Roosevelt and Renita are teaching because we know that for the public, it'll be very helpful for you listening. Now, if you like what you're hearing on this episode and you want to learn more about how you can become involved in Love and Legacy, then we'd love to have you. We'd love to actually see if you're a good fit because Love and Legacy is a breakthrough program specifically designed for Black couples who want to build stronger communication, who want to build better health, who want to have deeper intimacy, and who want to create more money for their family. So if that's you, we encourage you to apply. You can go to strengthofseduction.com/apply to learn more about Love and Legacy and to see if you're a good fit. And now, without further ado, let's get into today's episode.
Out a very short PowerPoint because there's going to be some work that you guys are going to be doing on tonight as we're walking through this. And so tonight's focus is about grow yourself, support your partner. And so we're talking about communication skills for personal growth and development. It's like Roosevelt said, we all know that we have personal goals and aspirations, and then we have those that are shared between us and they help us to grow and develop. So when we're talking about personal growth and development, what we're going to be focusing on tonight are using our personal skills of listening and speaking, and we've talked about those in the weeks past, but we're going to look at those because we understand that when we develop as individuals, that helps us to grow in our happiness and our fulfillment. And it also spills right over into our marital satisfaction. And so, what we're going to be looking at tonight is you listing, if you haven't already. We're in the second month of the year, halfway through the second month of the year, and a lot of times people at the beginning of the year, they set goals. And so have, and we talked about them excuse me, a few weeks back. So do we have personal goals that we've set, and then do we have goals that we've set for a couple, as a couple? But what we want to do is talk about our goals, dreams, aspirations, values, beliefs, opinions, interests. All of these different things are what we want to be able to share with one another as partners in order to help us grow individually, and then learning how to give useful, constructive feedback versus criticism or judgment to help our partner grow. And then as we work together on specific goals to help us grow together. And so what we realize is that you have strengths, your partner has strengths, and how do you tap into those in order to pull those out and use and apply those to help you reach the desired goals that you have, whether they're individual or whether they're collective that you want to do and accomplish as a couple. So here's the first thing that we want to do tonight. We've got a assessment, assessing your supportiveness for achieving goals. So we want you to look at these 8 questions, and or seven, is it eight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. 3, 4, 8 questions. Sorry, I can't count. We want you to look at these questions and we want you to rate them 1 to 10. 1 is low, 10 is high. And so you're answering the first 3 questions about your personal goals, and then the remaining 8, or the remaining 5, are about goals that you set together. Rate them individually, and then you're going to total up, tally up your total, and then we're going to talk about that. So you've set personal goals. Yep. Okay. All right. How many of you have set goals? And so those are individual goals. I should have said that. How many of you have set goals for you as a couple for the year? Anybody set couple goals?
And keep in mind that goals can be set in a variety of areas. It's not always something that you have to quote unquote accomplish. Sometimes you can set goals for travel or set goals for experiences you want to have. So there's a variety. So don't just limit yourself on, is it a project type goal? There's all kind of goals.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
may have some things that you wanted to work on, better nutrition. There's many different areas that you can set
Right.
goals in.
Okay. All right. And I want you guys just to share a little bit. How many people have set individual goals or couple goals and you have talked about it with one another? So we'll talk about that.
So we've actually already started on this, but sharing our individual goals. So we've talked about what are your dreams, what are your aspirations. Again, we talked about the fact that it really can be, we can have goals in all kinds of areas. Some of them are career, business related. We talked about personal development, intellectual, educational, spiritual, physical. So it sounds like we heard some about faith. Next thing we want to make sure that we do is, what challenges do you anticipate in achieving these aspirations? And that's real important to understand, because a lot of times we have the intention and we have the best intentions of reaching those goals, but sometimes we don't anticipate what are the factors that may become roadblocks. And some of those roadblocks could be whether it is about some things that happen outside of your control. Some things might be that happen because of sickness, illness, things come up like that. But also we have to recognize that we have to know ourselves as well, because sometimes there might be things about ourselves that we may sabotage our own success by not following through on those certain goals. So we want to anticipate if there are things that could prevent me from reaching those goals. I want to make sure that I take care of number 3, and that is, how can your spouse support you? And what I mean by that is, what support might you need in order to reach those particular goals? I remember when I went back to get my master's degree, I knew that, first of all, I waited a long time in order to go back for my master's degree. I knew with us having a young family that I would not be able to do that on my own. And so what I had to do is I had to make sure that Renita was in agreement with me that, hey, if I go back and work on this degree, will you support me? Will you mind? Because I had to do it in the evenings. I worked full time during the day, and then I went to school at night, and I had to ask her for 3.5, I think almost 4 years, will you support me in this? And so I had to anticipate that my time was going to be challenged. I was still working. We were still volunteering. We were working at our church, volunteering at our church as the children and the youth pastors. So we had a very full schedule. And so we knew there were a lot of things that we're going to be called on to do. So I knew that I was going to need her support in order to reach that. So those are just some things to keep in mind when you're working towards your goal, not just understanding what your goal is, but also anticipating what roadblocks you may potentially run into, and then assessing how can I garner my resources so that I can give myself the best opportunity to reach those goals.
So let's talk about that for a few minutes. Anybody that wants to share some of the challenges, obstacles that you could potentially, that you're anticipating when you're talking about health goals and health and wellness, when you're talking about, Joe said, I'm trying to get my savings back up to 40K. What are some of the obstacles, challenges that you could potentially face? And then on the other side of that, how can your partner help to support you to reach whatever those goals are? Okay. All right.
All right. So next thing we're going to just touch on, and I'm going to just suggest this, even talk about shared goals. And again, just like there are different areas where we could have, and I'm going to share my screen again, where we could have goals together or individual, we could also have shared goals. And this, for me, like I said, is one of my favorite areas. This is one of my favorite areas, because this is what we found out, Renita, when we met more than 33 years ago, probably 37 years ago at Purdue. We had always found out we work really well individually, but when we put our talents together, we accomplish so much. So there's different areas where you could have shared goals. If it's in your finances, parenting, caregiving, in business, home management, major purchases, there's many areas that we could have where we could have goals together. But I think what you want to understand is, what are the things from a common goal perspective? What do we need? What goals do we want to select so that we can get on the same page? What are the things that we want to accomplish together? And again, when we understand your strengths and my strengths, and we bring those things together, we become so much more effective. I remember when we were going to purchase our first house, and as an example, we were under that same impression, trying to pay off school loans and paying off cars and things of that nature. But when we decided, you know what, we are going to get on the same page, and we set a goal for how much we wanted to save, how much we had to pay off. We decided for a whole year, We're not going out to eat. Renita stopped getting her hair done. I stopped going, rather than going to the barber shop, I went to the barber college. We did everything that we could do in order to save money. When we got on the same page, it was amazing how much we were able to accomplish. So just being aware of finding a goal that you can both get in sync on and that you can agree on, and then bring your talents to the table. That is what really makes the difference in creating goals that you can work on together.
So we were talking a little bit earlier, and when we first asked about what kind of goals have you set individually and together as a couple, and some of them were very vague, not as specific and time bound. And some of you may have heard of the whole idea of setting SMART goals, and those goals have specific parameters to it, such that it really does put a lot more meat to it. So it's not just we're going to lose weight, or we're going to spend more time together, or we're going to save some more money, but we're getting very specific about it. And so that's what SMART stands for. The S stands for specific. So there's a particular focus. I like Joe said earlier, I want to get my savings back up to 40,000. So he has a specific amount in mind that he's striving for. When I have something specific, then I can measure that. I will know individually as a couple if we're on target. So if I'm trying to save $40,000 and the goal is to save that by December 31st, and on by halfway through the year, we're only up to about $5,000, then I'm probably not on track with that. And there may be some adjustments to be made. But the measurable part of that is I can look at my progress as we go. So not only are we being specific, but we have a way to measure our progress and our success. A is for achievable. And so we're looking at, is this something that I really can do? If I only earn $25,000, it's not likely that I'm going to save 40,000 in a year, if that's the time limit that I have. If it's 5 years, then that's different. But is it attainable? Is it achievable? Because it's something that, again, going to the next letter, that it's realistic. And so have I set a goal for us? Somebody mentioned about moving toward the half marathon. If the half marathon is in May, and I wait until April to start doing any kind of running, then I'm not being very realistic that I'm going to be prepared and ready to run that marathon. So it's thinking about, what am I doing on a day-to-day basis that gets me closer to the goal that I've set. And then lastly is that it's something that's time bound. And I'm realistically going after this in incremental time periods in order to reach that goal at this specified point. So again, if I'm trying to save the 40,000 by December 31st, do I break that into quarters? Do I break that into monthly? Do I break that into weekly, what I'm saving, what Joe is saving in order to get him to that marker of that $40,000. So let's just go back or stop sharing for a minute, and let's just talk about that for a minute. How many of you have ever even heard of the whole idea of setting SMART goals? Okay, very good. So when you set your goals, individual and collectively, did you set them as SMART goals? Okay. And that's one of the things that we wanted to do on tonight, because again, whether it's an individual goal or it's a goal that you're working on together as a couple, when we set SMART goals, the opportunity and the chance that we will meet them just increases considerably. First and foremost, when we put pen to paper on the things that we're aspiring, it makes a big difference. There was a study done years and years ago. I can't even remember the name of the study, but they had gone to a college campus, and they basically went in and they were asking these students, what do you want to do? Where do you want to be in the next 10 years, the next 20 years? And they tracked them over the years. And when they came back at the end of that time period, only the students who wrote those goals down were the ones that accomplished the things that they said. students that were like, I want to be a politician, I want to be the head of the company or whatever, they were still either working on it or just put it by the wayside or whatever. But the students that literally wrote it down on a piece of paper were the ones that accomplished. So that's number one. In your goal setting, write it down, write it in your journal, write it on a 3x5 card, put it somewhere where you can look at that and you can see it. And then by all means, make it a SMART goal so that you are specifically going for something. You can measure and track your progress. You know that it's attainable because I have the knowledge, I have the resources in order to attain that. Is realistic for the time that I've set, and I put a time limit on it, so it's just not nebulously out there in the future that eventually I'm going to get that.
Well, my friends, that's it for today's episode. If you loved it as much as we loved making it for you, make sure to like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Make sure to leave a review. It really helps us on Apple or Spotify. And of course, if you want to learn more about love and legacy and how you can get involved to improve your marriage in every single way, from communication to health to intimacy to finances, make sure you go to strengthofseduction.com/apply to learn more. And as I always say, love fiercely, communicate openly, and always find your way back to each other. This is Daniel, and I'll catch you next time on the Strength of Seduction podcast.